You're listening to Keith Sports News. Hey guys, welcome to KSN episode 43. Yep, talking about the big sporting events happening on Memorial Day weekend. That's right, it is that time of the year. We are approaching Memorial Day weekend, or actually, I guess we can say we are here. We made it to Memorial Day weekend, so I'm going to talk about the events for this weekend, okay? But first, the first thing I want to talk about is we have some breaking news, okay? And I think I'm going to put this in the title of this episode. So if you do see it in the title of this episode, then you know what I'm about to talk about first. WWE news. Pro wrestling. This came out of nowhere. Good thing I know about this. But for those of you that haven't heard the news, apparently WrestleMania next year will not be in New Orleans. Wow, that's a shame. I don't think WWE has ever been in a situation like this where, a couple months ago, they announced, or it was really The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, he's the one that revealed the news that WrestleMania 42 next year will be in New Orleans. And he said that on SmackDown, Friday Night SmackDown in New Orleans, to the New Orleans crowd. SmackDown is coming to your city next year, Here we are. We're like less than 11 months until next year's WrestleMania. Out of nowhere, WWE announced that, no, next year's WrestleMania will not be in New Orleans. Now, first thing you're going to ask me is, what do I think of this? Because I live in South Louisiana, and I did say in the past that I might actually go to next year's WrestleMania in New Orleans. Well, I'm not that upset, to be honest with you. It's because I'm not a big fan of today's product. Do I want to go? Yeah, I would like to go. Like, let's say, next year's WrestleMania is really in New Orleans, and somehow I won't be able to go anyways. I'm not going to be upset because, like I said, I'm not a big fan of today's product. But it would be great to go if I had the opportunity. But now that opportunity has thrown away. So, but at the same time, I'm not that upset because I feel like for the fans that really do go to a WrestleMania, that means they are big fans of the product. To be honest with you, I'd rather go to a regular Monday Night Raw show or a regular Friday Night SmackDown show instead. Because WrestleMania is the biggest event of the year for the WWE, which means it's the most expensive event of the year. Because I don't want to spend a ton of money, to buy a ticket there. I'd rather save my money for something else, But that is a shame. I feel bad for, the fans that are really excited, Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go. I've never been to one. I can finally have a chance to go, and now you can't, So that really sucks for those people. The one thing that I'm a little upset about this actually just popped into my mind. Is that there's this wrestling podcast that I would occasionally listen to every week. It's called Busted Open on Sirius XM. It's a really great, if not the best, wrestling podcast, you know. And the host on that, Dave LaGreca, who is the brother of Don LaGreca, okay? Dave, he said, I forgot when he said this, but in the past, he said, New Orleans is like one of the best cities, if not the best city, to host big events. And wow, that made me that made me happy when he said that, because I don't live far away from New Orleans. I live in South Louisiana. I live in the capital city, which is Baton Rouge. New Orleans is about an hour and 15 minutes away. Depending on if the traffic is not, bad. But yeah, and the thing is, every year, the Busted Open personalities on there would go to that city for that WrestleMania. So this year, they were in Las Vegas, and you get to see them in person. I'll be like, man, it would be great to see these people in person. The Busted Open hosts. It would be great to see them in person and get to hear them talk about WrestleMania in person, so I'll have to hear what they have to say. Yes, I'll have to hear what they have to say about this breaking news that WrestleMania next year will no longer be in New Orleans. I wonder if Dave LaGreca is going to rant. It's always great when he rants. His brother rants too, but his brother Don, he doesn't rant as much. But whenever Don rants, it's so funny. So, but Don LaGreca, he used to be with Michael Kay on the Michael Kay show until Michael Kay, at the beginning of this year, says, I'm going to do the show solo, okay? But, yeah. This news came out of nowhere. Like I said, I'm not upset. I guess I'm a little upset, but I'm not like, I'm not deeply depressed where I'm crying. I can't go. No. Here's how I found out. Here's how I found out about this breaking news. So, I was on YouTube. On my TV screen, I have a Fire Stick, an Amazon Fire Stick, which I think a lot of people do have that nowadays. And, you can get like a whole bunch of apps on there. And one of the apps that I got on there is YouTube, because I get to watch my videos or other people's videos on the TV screen. The thing is, you can't comment on there. You can only comment from your phone, tablet, or a laptop, computer. Excuse me. But here's how I found out. So I was on YouTube, on my Fire Stick, the app, on my home screen, and the first thing I saw on there was the thumbnail and the title of a video from Not Sam Wrestling. Not Sam Wrestling is another wrestling podcast that I would listen to sometime. And I saw the thumbnail and the title. It basically says WrestleMania 42 no longer in New Orleans, emergency podcast. And when I first saw that, I'm like, wait, what? No way. No way this is real news. And I listened to that emergency podcast, and unfortunately, I guess it is real. That is real news. That, man, that's how I found out. Otherwise, I probably would not have known. Maybe I would because I think I have the notifications. Yeah, I do have the notification bell turned on that channel for Not Sam Wrestling and Busted Open. Busted Open does have their own YouTube channel as well. They'll upload some clips from their, Sirius XM episodes of them talking about wrestling. So I'll have to hear what they have to say. Well, I wonder if Dave is going to be angry about this. I'll have to see. So I'm going to look this up here on Wikipedia. Well, actually, I can just do it on the computer because it's easier for me. So you're probably wondering, well, if WrestleMania 42 is not going to be in New Orleans anymore, where is it going to be? Apparently, I don't know if this is true or not. This is probably a rumor. Apparently, I heard that next year's WrestleMania will also be in Las Vegas. I did listen to Not Sam Wrestling's emergency episode of him talking about this, and that's what he says. He says WWE is consider wanting to have next year's WrestleMania in Las Vegas again. And let me tell you, what the heck? Okay, sorry. If next year's WrestleMania is also in Las Vegas, then that is disappointing because they hosted this year's WrestleMania. Shouldn't it next year be a different city's turn? Isn't that how that works? Like the Super Bowl, right? That's what people say. WrestleMania is like the Super Bowl of pro wrestling, Except now it's a 2-night event. And I get it. It's about the money. I understand that. Vegas has a ton of money. It's crazy. But, they already hosted WrestleMania. I have a problem with that, if they're hosting next year's WrestleMania again, why? Now they have Royal Rumble in a stadium. And this year's Survivor Series will be in a stadium. It's going to be in San Diego, the baseball stadium, home of the Padres. Okay? So I guess now Survivor Series is also going to be in a stadium. Now, here's the thing. Next year's Royal Rumble is going to be in Saudi Arabia. That is going to be so weird to watch, especially the women's Royal Rumble, because they can't show their skin, only their face, which means they have to wear full clothing from top to bottom. It's going to be so weird when that comes. Royal Rumble next year in Saudi Arabia. To be honest, I prefer New Orleans. I almost prefer New Orleans hosting the Royal Rumble because, I think I would have a more fun time if I were to go to the Royal Rumble event instead of a WrestleMania event, because in the Royal Rumble event you get to see 30 men and women, okay? However, there's only 5 matches because the Royal Rumble matches are an hour each, so that's already over 2 hours of the event right there. But you get to see 30 men and women. How cool is that? But I don't know. But Saudi Arabia will will be hosting next year's Royal Rumble. So let me look up the Wikipedia article page on here. Isn't that a damn shame? All right. So it says on here, the event was originally set to take place at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana on April 11 and 12, 2026. However, in May 2025, it was announced that the plans had changed with a new location to be announced, and that New Orleans would instead host a future WrestleMania. So they never said why they made this change. Like that, we always want to know why, but they don't give you the answer. I'm looking here. There is more. On May 22nd, 2025, it was confirmed that the event will no longer take place in New Orleans. While the specifics of the location change were not revealed, this came as part of a bigger agreement with New Orleans instead hosting a future WrestleMania, as well as, listen to this, next year's Money in the Bank event. I'm not sure if next year's Money in the Bank will be in the Superdome or the Smoothie King Center. Reports then emerged that with the success of the prior year's WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, WrestleMania 42 may also be held there, but this has yet to be confirmed by WWE. I don't want Vegas to host next year's WrestleMania because they hosted this year's. Give it to a different city. How about the UK? Let's have a WrestleMania in the UK. Yes, people would disagree with me on that, but I don't mind. I really don't mind if the UK hosts a WrestleMania. I think they deserve to host a WrestleMania. I remember John Cena, not the current John Cena, the John Cena from, I think, 2023. I think he said he returned at the 2023 Money in the Bank, I believe. And it was in the UK. And he said that the UK, London, should host a WrestleMania. And I think they should. I hope they host next year's. And people are going to be like, no, we can't. Because, if WrestleMania, what time does WrestleMania start? Like, it's 6 or 7? So I live in the Central Time. I think London is about 6 hours ahead. So that means if I were to watch it live, I would have to watch it at like noon or 1 p.m. Central. But here's the thing, people. You don't have to watch it live anymore. If it's on Peacock or Netflix, you don't have to watch it live. This is not the old days anymore where you have to watch it live. You have no choice to watch it live. That's the great thing about these streaming apps. You don't have to watch it live. Just don't look on the internet. Don't look on social media. Don't get spoiled. Okay? Jeez, people act like they have to watch everything live. You don't. Alright. Yeah. If the UK hosts next year's WrestleMania, I'm all in for that. I don't want Vegas to host next year's Mania. They already hosted this year's. I don't know. It's very strange that we have to talk about this because this news came out of nowhere. There are cities that have never hosted a WrestleMania that has a stadium. And there are cities that haven't hosted a WrestleMania in a long time. So why can't they give those cities a chance? You know? I don't know. It's very strange. So I'll have to listen to Busted Open to see what Dave LaGreca has to say. I forget who's his partner on Fridays. He doesn't have the same partner or broadcast partner on the show every day. He has like a variety of different guest hosts. So I'm sure he'll be on there. I'll have to listen. But yeah, just I wanted to say that first because it was breaking news. All right. In the meantime, let's talk about what's happening this weekend. This is Memorial Day weekend. Big weekend for sports. You know, got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You know, those are baseball days. Yes. Memorial Day weekend is usually a big weekend for the MLB. I think the players will wear like special caps and uniforms for Memorial Day. I don't know if it's just Memorial Day Monday or that entire weekend. But they'll have some Monday afternoon games on Memorial Day Monday. And speaking of that, speaking of the MLB, let's check the standings. Did Colorado win 10 games? Last time I checked, they won 8 games. Did they win 10? I'm looking here. It's loading. The Colorado Rockies did not win 10 games. They are 8-42. That is ridiculous. 8 wins and 42 losses. And they are 23 games behind the LA Dodgers. Absolutely ridiculous. The second worst team is the Chicago White Sox. They're 15-35. 15 wins, 35 losses, so they won 7 more games than the Rockies. And they will play each other. They will play against each other later this year because every team now plays all the teams in their schedule. Crazy. All right. Let's the NBA and NHL playoffs, their conference final rounds have begun earlier this week. The only thing I know is that the East final in the NBA between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks was like, what on earth? Yeah, I heard it on the Rich Eisen show. So let's do NBA first because we usually do that first. So on Tuesday, May 20th, was the West Final Game 1 between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder won by a score of 114-88. The Thunder Oklahoma City takes a 1-0 series lead. And then Wednesday night was the game that I just mentioned. The East Final Game 1 between the Pacers and the Knicks. The Pacers won by a score of 138-135 in overtime. What a high-scoring game that is. That game was in Madison Square Garden. The Indiana Pacers take a 1-0 series lead. How will the New York Knicks recover after that devastating loss? Well, they play tonight. We'll find out. Yes, I heard that from the Rich Eisen show. Rich Eisen, one of the greatest out there, he is a Knicks fan. So, very disappointing for him. And Thursday was game two, the other night of the West Final between the Timberwolves at the Thunder. The Thunder won again by a score of 118 to 103, and they take a 2-0 series lead. So tonight will be game two of the East Finals between the Pacers and the Knicks. And then Saturday night will be game three of the West Final between the Thunder at the Timberwolves. And then Sunday would be game three of the East Finals between the Knicks at the Pacers. So those are going to be, those are going to be some big games to looking forward to. Now to the NHL, we'll do the same thing over there. Tuesday night, May 20th, was game one of the East Final between the Florida Panthers at the Carolina Hurricanes. The Panthers won by a score of 5-2. My gosh, all of a sudden the Panthers, the Stanley Cup champions from last year, are on fire. They're on the quest to win the cup back-to-back years. And the game was at Carolina too. Wow. And then Wednesday was the West Final game one between the Edmonton Oilers at the Dallas Stars. The Stars won 6-3, and they take 1-0 series lead. And then last night was game two of the East Final between the Panthers and the Hurricanes. Holy crap. The Panthers shut out the Hurricanes 5-0 at Carolina. The team that easily beat the Washington Capitals in the previous round. Oh my gosh. And now the next two games will be going to South Florida. This could be a sweep. This could be a sweep. Wow. I don't know what to think. That is crazy. So tonight will be game two of the West Final between the Oilers at the Stars. Saturday night will be game three, the East Final between the Hurricanes at the Panthers. And then Sunday night, this is Sunday afternoon, West Final between the Stars, Dallas Stars at the Edmonton Oilers. The reason why that game's afternoon is because it's on ABC. And last Sunday there was an afternoon NBA playoff game on NBC. Anyways, I hope I want the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup because of Connor McDavid, the greatest player right now, right? And he scored the game-winning goal a couple months ago in the Four Nations face-off, on Team Canada beating Team USA. And last year he was so close to winning the Stanley Cup. So it would be great if they can win it this year. We might get a rematch. It's possible we might get a Stanley Cup final rematch. I don't know. But yeah, so that's what's going on in the NBA and NHL. All right. I'm going to make my UFL predictions here. Week 9. So tonight, the 6-2 St. Louis Battlehawks are facing the 1-7 San Antonio Brahmas at San Antonio. Lately, San Antonio's been getting a lot of home games. Isn't that weird? Yeah, they had like 3 straight road games at the beginning of the season. Now this is like their 4th straight home game. What kind of schedule is this? This makes no sense. All right, then. Well, I'm taking the Battlehawks. They've been playing some great football lately. I'll do my predictions for the over or under. 42.5 total. I'm going to take the under on this one. I have the Battlehawks winning. Okay, we got 2 games on Saturday. So this time you don't have both games on at the same time like they did last Saturday. Both games were on noon on Fox, which was stupid. This time, 2 games on Saturday at separate times on ABC. That's much better. The first one's at 11 a.m. Central. It's the 3-5 Arlington Renegades taking on the 2-6 Memphis Showboats in Memphis. I don't really care about that game, to be honest with you, because both teams are out of the playoffs. I'll take the Showboats. I'll take the Showboats to win. I'm not confident, though. Total 40.5. I'll take over this time. Then the game after that, 2 p.m. Central, ABC, Michigan Panthers at the Birmingham Stallions. This is clearly the game to watch because the Michigan Panthers are 6-2 and the Birmingham Stallions are 5-3. The game is at Birmingham, and I believe most likely these are the 2 teams that will face each other in the USFL Conference Championship game, the game to go into the UFL Championship game. I'm going to take... This is a tough one. I'll take the Stallions because they are the home team, and they're 5-3. The Panthers are 6-2. So if the Stallions win and the Panthers lose, then they'll both be 6-3. The total is 44.5. I'll take over as well. And then Sunday on Fox at 3 p.m. Central, the DC Defenders are taking on the Houston Roughnecks. Now, this is stupid. The Houston Roughnecks, they're playing at home at 3 p.m. It's going to be a very hot day in Houston. Let me look up the weather. Houston weather for Sunday, or Sunday at 3 p.m. Yep, it's in the 90s. Temperature is going to be in the 90s. What the heck? Why can't that game be a night game? I'm telling you, this schedule sucks. You know why it sucks? Because in reality, there are other big sporting events happening this weekend as well. See, this is why I said this before. I'll say it again. The UFL should have began their season in late February, a month earlier than late March. And if that was the case, the UFL season would have ended like last weekend or the weekend before. That would be so much better. The XFL did that twice, 2020 and 2023. They began their season the weekend after the Super Bowl. That was better. I liked it like that. You know, why wait? Why wait a month and a half after the Super Bowl? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, the DC Defenders are 6-2. Houston Roughnecks are 3-5. I'm taking DC. DC's gonna win this big, in my opinion. Houston Roughnecks are pretty much out of the playoffs now. That stadium's gonna be empty. It's probably gonna be hardly any fans are gonna be there, unfortunately. Maybe it's because it's gonna be 90 degrees there, you know. The total 46. I'm gonna take the under. Well, I think the semifinals are set. Are they set? Nope, they're not. They're not quite set yet. But let me check the standings. Are four teams eliminated? Yeah, they are. Okay, never mind. So the playoffs are set basically. They just have to determine which of the two teams are going to be having the home field advantage. So yeah, the Houston Roughnecks, Memphis Showboats, Arlington Renegades, and San Antonio Brahmas, they have are officially eliminated. So in the USFL Conference Championship game, it will be the Michigan Panthers and the Birmingham Stallions. And then the XFL Conference Championship game will be the DC Defenders and the St. Louis Battlehawks. So yeah, those are going to be big matchups. I think I will watch those games live. And those will be on the semifinals on Sunday, June 8th. One game, 2 p.m. on ABC Central Time, and then the second game will be at 5 p.m. on Fox. USFL Conference Championship game will be in the afternoon. That'll be the first game, and then the second game will be the XFL Conference Championship game. All right. Looking forward to that. And the UFL Championship game will be on Saturday, June 14 at 7 p.m. on ABC in St. Louis. So I hope the St. Louis Battlehawks make it. So, Memorial Day weekend will also be this Sunday, I believe. The French Open in tennis will begin. Let's see. Yep, Sunday, May 25th will be the beginning of the French Open tennis. And I usually watch quite a bit of that every year, but this year, for years, it's been on NBC. Now it's going to be on TNT, True TV, I think, with Patrick McEnroe as the host. So I'll see how that goes. Different broadcast, different network. But I always like Patrick McEnroe. He has his own podcast on SiriusXM called Holding Court every Saturday morning. So I'll have to listen to his podcast of him previewing the French Open. That is my least favorite Grand Slam. Out of the four majors in tennis, the French Open is my least favorite, but I still enjoy watching it. I'll mainly watch more of the second half of the tournament of the French Open. So, yeah. And this Sunday, the biggest event happening this weekend, in my opinion, on Sunday, is the Indianapolis 500. That's right, the Indy 500 is this Sunday. And every year, I usually watch that. For years, it's been on NBC since 2019. But this year, for some reason, it's no longer on NBC. Just like the French Open, both the French Open and the Indy 500 are no longer being broadcasted on NBC. French Open's going to be on True TV, TNT, or TBS, one of those networks. And the Indianapolis 500, for the first time ever, will be broadcasted on Fox. That's right. Fox is going to be broadcasting the Indianapolis 500 for the first time ever. That's weird. I don't know what to think. You know, for many years it was on ABC, and I remember the last few years ABC hosted the Indy 500, and then 2019 NBC took over. So from 2019 to 2024, NBC hosted the Indy 500, and now this year, 2025, Fox will be broadcasting the Indy 500, which is weird because for those of you that watch this race every year, you guys know there is a second big race that evening, and it's a NASCAR race, the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, North Carolina. For years, that race, that Sunday evening race, for years, that race was broadcasted on Fox. But I looked it up. This year, for some reason, it's going to be broadcasted on Amazon Prime. Yeah, Amazon Prime will be broadcasting the Coca-Cola 600 for NASCAR in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, man, you got all these changes. Okay, so, and then usually that Sunday morning, there would be a Formula One Grand Prix. Man, they're big racing fans. You can watch racing for like, holy crap, over 12 hours. You got the Formula One Grand Prix in the morning. Is it in Monaco? Or at least when I remembered, it was in Monaco. I don't know if it still is in Monaco. Then you got the Indianapolis 500 in the afternoon. And then that evening, you have the NASCAR's Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, North Carolina. Goodness gracious. Yeah, the Indianapolis 500 has been around forever. Yeah, forever. It's just as old as the CFL's Grey Cup. Those two events have been around for over 100 years. Not quite as old as the Kentucky Derby, Preakness Stakes, and Belmont Stakes in horse racing. But you know what I mean. These events, they've been around forever. And there was an Indianapolis 500 in 2020, but it was not on a Sunday, Memorial Day, the day before Memorial Day. It was in August that year, but empty stands. So, yeah, there you have it. So I'm going to try to watch that. That's the big thing this weekend, Indy 500. So, yeah. Oh, man, all of a sudden I have the allergies. Sorry if I sound different from the beginning of this episode. I'm also getting tired, so I'm going to wrap up this episode. And, yeah. Well, I just drank a half a bottle of water. So yeah, guys, that is it. A huge weekend in sports. Actually, wait. Let me check. Oh wait, there's a few more things I want to say. Excuse me. Comments. Yep. Because I know I got another comment from Five Tayer, who's been following quite a lot of these episodes lately. So shout out to Five Tayer. Let me see. Let me check ESPN's notification because sometimes I do get breaking news. I wonder if ESPN gave me a notification of the WrestleMania change. Let's see. French Open draw announced. Yannick Sinner, who just came back not too long ago after his 3-month suspension. Carlos Alcaraz earned top seeds on the men's side, while Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff are the top women's draw. Okay. Let's see. Any other news? Yes, the WNBA season started as well. I do know about that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese situation. Man, shout out to the WNBA because they're getting a lot of views lately. They've been getting a lot of ratings lately. And that's great. That's great for women's sports. It really is. Let's see here. I still can't believe the Florida Panthers shut out the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina, just like when they easily beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in Game 7 in Toronto. Like, what on earth is going on? I know, right? Okay, yeah, surprisingly, I did not get a ESPN notification of the WWE WrestleMania 42 location change. But anyways, got a comment here from 5Tayer. Let me read what it says here. From the previous episode. He says, I saw the few minutes of the Arlington, D.C. UFL game since I was tuning into ABC for the NBA. Because there was a NBA playoff game that afternoon. And I noticed that after the 2-minute warning, they moved the game to ESPN2 so they could air NBA pregame coverage. So the original audience missed the ending entirely. Yeah, that's a bummer. So that UFL game was on ABC. I didn't get to watch it. Well, I saw the highlights on YouTube. Didn't have time to watch the replay, but so that game was on ABC in the afternoon. I assume it was on that game was on at I think 11 a.m. Central, and the NBA game was at 2:30 p.m. Central. So they had like a 30-minute pregame show, but that UFL game went a little over 3 hours. So they had to move the game to ESPN2. But usually when they do that, doesn't the announcers inform the viewers, hey guys, we are switched to ESPN2 for the rest of this game. NBA fans, stay tuned. ABC, you got your NBA pregame show coming up. And usually they would say that at the bottom right of the ticker. You know, it'll be highlighted in yellow. It'll tell you that the game has been moved to ESPN2. They do that a lot in college football. Yeah, because a lot of the college football games are on the ESPN networks. They would do that. And, you know, it's not that difficult if you know where to find the channels. So, yeah. But anyways, that is it. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Jeez, we got a lot going on. Of course, you know, baseball, MLB, the UFL Week 9, French Open tennis, WNBA. There's so much happening. And of course, the Indianapolis 500. So enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Have a great one. And I'll talk to you guys on, I guess, either Monday or Tuesday. No, it's going to have to be maybe Monday, if not Tuesday. One of those 2 days. Okay? Have a good one. Thank you for listening to Keith Sports News.